You can
Okay,
take
hi
it away.
everyone. My name is Dr. Georgette Heyrman. I'm an associate professor in the human biology department, and so I will be presenting on pre-med track for us this evening. But I also have a guest. This is Dr. Craig Hanke, so I'll let him introduce himself as well.
Hi, everyone. Glad that you could make time to join us tonight. So, I'm the Assistant Dean for the Basic Sciences early portion of the medical school curriculum at MCW Green Bay. And so, obviously, we would love to hear from all of you and continue to hope you're interested in potentially attending med school at our campus. Well, I'll be around the whole time. We can ask your questions and see if we can give you some more information.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you have any questions during our session, please put them in the chat and Carla will let us know. Otherwise, if we see them at the end, we're happy to answer them as well. So just as an outline for what we're going to talk about today. So first, we're going to talk about the academic side, what you can do while you're a student here as an undergraduate, and then outside of academics, what should you be doing as you're preparing to apply to med school? We would need to think about letters of recommendation as well, and then the MCAT test. Then after we've talked about those aspects of an application, we'll talk about some timelines and how you would submit. Then we would finally end up with looking at some profiles for the medical schools in Wisconsin. And then Dr. Hanke can give us additional insight if he wants to tell us about MCW specifically. Okay, so as a human bio major, we recommend the health science emphasis for applying to medical school. And that's because we've designed the curriculum to fit a lot of the prerequisites that you're going to need as you apply. You can be any major. You don't have to be a human bio health science emphasis, but we have designed our curriculum around that to help you be the most prepared as you are taking these classes and being ready to take the MCAT and enter medical school. So some of those important things that are prereqs for being a medical school applicant would be having the second semester of general biology. So we have Bio 201, but you also might want to consider 203 as the, or yeah, 203 is the lecture portion for that second semester. Some med schools require that 2 semester of general bio. Another important thing to think about as you're going through your curriculum as a human biohealth science major would be we would recommend taking biochemistry rather than analytical. It's an either or as a health science emphasis. You can take both. One would just transfer down into the upper level elective, but biochemistry would be a course that you would definitely want to take before you take the MCAT. Some additional courses that you would want to take before you take the MCAT would be physics. Make sure you have 2 semesters of organic chemistry. Human Phys is a great course to take before you take the MCAT, a genetics course, and then the social sciences like psych. Some additional recommended courses. Some medical schools require calculus, not all. Definitely taking stats, that's a required course as a human biohealth science emphasis. That's an important course. We feel that being able to communicate is a good skill to have, and medical schools might require a communication course. So we have COM 133, and then there's another communication course as an option that you would take over taking, say, an English course. We would recommend taking a communications course. And then we have a lot of upper level electives that we think are great courses as you're thinking about applying to medical school. And those would include advanced micro, cancer bio, endocrinology, immunology, neurobiology. Those are some of our upper level electives that we offer that we think would be great additions to your college plan. Dr. Hanke, do you have any other recommendations for us in terms of classes?
I think that's a great list. Those recommended courses, I would say one of the ones that I would particularly recommend everyone consider is immunology, just based on the kinds of things that we hear back from students and the pace of medical school and how fast you go through immunology, which we cover in about 2 weeks. And it would be nice to have those 14 weeks of UWGB to kind of let a little of that settle in. We can talk about it more later too. Happy to take questions on all of it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so outside of the classroom, as you're thinking about applying, there's a number of other things that you should be thinking about spending your time on. And I'd also recommend keeping a diary or some kind of notebook of any kind of moment that you think has meaningful impact. I would start writing those down. Because you're going to have to write a number of essays, and the more you can draw from your experience and tell those small, important moments, I think the better your application will be. So these things that you're spending your time outside of the classroom, you want to be thinking about 300 to 500 hours of combined clinical experience. And so you want to have a breadth of experiences. You don't want to just be one thing that you're doing, but thinking about doing a lot of different activities that you're passionate about. And then also not just one day experiences as all of them, have a couple that are more long term that you've invested your time and efforts in and has helped you grow. Um, so that might include volunteering, doing community outreach if that's what's something that you're passionate about. Volunteering, you could volunteer at an animal shelter if that's something that you're, again, passionate about, volunteering at a hospital. You don't have to do things that you think are classically medical school related. It's more you want to show them who you are and how you spend your time, and what makes you be alive, rather than, oh, I should be doing this, would be my recommendation of how you volunteer. Any other suggestions for volunteering?
I think community agencies, there are so many of them that you might not even know exist. Things like Golden House and the Aging and Disability Resource Center. And, there's all of these that I don't think everybody is really aware of. They're relatively small, but they're always looking for help. And I think those are great opportunities. The one other thing I guess I would just say is I think that your point, Dr. Heyrman, first about the 300 to 500 hours of combined clinical experience is really critical. Why does that exist? It exists to some extent so that the students have an awareness of what it is they're going to be doing as they get into the healthcare field. And to be honest, we don't want anybody to mistakenly think they enjoy a career in healthcare and find out 2 years in that this is really not what I want to do with my life, because med school is one of those things where once you do it, you kind of stick with it for a while. It's not the kind of career you train for and then move on and do something different.
All right. So volunteering student orgs, that's another opportunity to kind of gain experience of value that can help improve your application. So we have a number of student clubs that are related to human bio and health, including the Pre-Med PA Club, Colleges Against Cancer, the Red Cross Club. Tri Beta is a biology honor society. That is also kind of a relevant one that would be useful for joining. You don't have to join them all. I probably don't recommend joining them all, but be active in a couple. It's okay to be in the Ultimate Frisbee Club as well, right? You can spend your time doing things that are fun too. Regardless of which ones you're doing, I would recommend being a leader in the club. Don't just be a person that showed up to meetings, but be a person who is taking on a member of the exec board or helping to plan events, things that you can talk about as showing that you take initiative and that you are being a leader in your community. So in addition to those clubs, we want to be shadowing physicians. So like Dr. Hanke mentioned, you want to know what you're getting into. And one of the best ways of doing that is following people who are actively working in the field right now. So we do have possible internship available through Pavea and now Amplify in the summer. And so those applications, they hold positions, or they classically have for UW Green Bay human biology or other majors to participate in those opportunities. So keep a lookout for that application that will be coming. Carla, I believe it's in early March is when we will announce that as for the summer internship.
Correct.
So that is, we've had students and we've had human bio seminars about that, where they spend multiple weeks during the summer shadowing physicians, participating in a research opportunity through those hospitals. So that's a really great opportunity that we have formed with those groups locally. And I think ideally those two opportunities have been paid opportunities this summer. So that's a more formal way of shadowing, but also reaching out to those hospitals and finding opportunities where you can shadow physicians is a good idea. And I believe Carla will be giving us the document we have with the contact information for the local healthcare areas that you would contact for shadowing this at the end of this, correct?
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. So we will have a document where you can find out, okay, who should I contact? And then we want to gain patient contact hours. So that will involve you making direct decisions while you're interacting with patients. So the classic one that we can think about is a certified nursing assistant. So a CNA, an EMT is also an opportunity to gain patient contact hours. These are paid. So a way to have a job while you're a student and gain those patient contact hours. There are additional ones, like a scribe or a medical interpreter. Although that one, they can have preferred positions. So Craig, if you want to speak to the best positions that you can take while you're a student to gain those patient contact hours.
I would say a few years ago, scribes were fairly common. I think that's become a little bit less common now. CNA is quite common and seems to work very well because CNAs always are involved directly in patient care, and it will also help, as Dr. Heyrman talked about. It'll help you to build things that experiences that you can use in your essays, which is going to become critical as you put that that application together. And so CNA would probably be toward the top of my list. Get certified. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you could plug in, whether it's at a nursing facility or at the hospital. In either case, you're going to have some really good patient contact experience.
So I didn't put that last because it's the least important. I actually put it last because I wanted to provide additional information about how you can get certified to become a CNA or how you could get certified to become an EMT. So many of these you do need a certificate to be able to get those positions. Some places will train you on the job and then help you get those certifications. I know some nursing homes offer that for CNAs. However, through NWTC, they do have these programs that are available where in a short amount of time you can become certified to be and then get those jobs. So these are just a sampling of those ones that are available. So additional things that you can do to help make your application the best it can be is to participate in some additional on-campus opportunities. So participating in research experiences like those upper level lab courses that are capstone. So advanced micro, you participate in Tiny Earth, and that is a research project that you're working on in a class environment. So those ones where you're following the scientific method and you're presenting your findings in some forum. That's one way. You can do independent research. So on campus, we do have a number of faculty that have their own research labs, and they do take undergrads to work alongside them on their projects. So my suggestion for those is to look on the human bio website, the biology website for the faculty profiles, even physics website or chemistry. Their faculty see what research they're involved in. And then if there are ones that you find interesting, I would reach out to those faculty members and not just say, hey, I want to do research, but instead say, hey, I was looking at your profile. I thought this was really interesting about your research. I would love to get involved. Do you have any opportunities available? So for me, that would be my preferred way that people approach me, is that they have demonstrated that they've done a little bit of research about what I'm interested in, before just reaching out and saying, I want to do research with you. That shows a little bit more initiative for me. In addition to the research during the semester with individual faculty that you can take for a course, we also have a Meyer Scholar summer research internship. So that's for maybe 1 or 2 students that we have funding for a year. And then you would be working with a faculty member. You would have to form that interaction first and join that professor's lab before applying for that. But outside of UW Green Bay, we're a pretty small school that has a smaller research program. More bigger universities like Madison, MCW, they have larger research environments. And so they will offer summer research internships for undergraduates. And so the NSF, the National Science Foundation, has a website that I believe Carla can link for us that offers summer, like all of the schools throughout the country that offer summer research internships that you can apply for. So these are competitive. You would have to fill out an application with essays, and then you would get paired up if selected for those opportunities. I know MCW has one that's called Spur. So that takes a little bit more initiative. The applications are probably going to open in December, and they're usually due sometime in January or February. So for next summer, starting in June, you would be looking for those opportunities for those summer programs. Kind of now they'll be posted. Those are paid. And if you have to move somewhere, they give you housing, they give you food stipend, you get paid on top of that to gain this experience and work on a research project with a lab that is spending the bulk of their time doing that research. We do have, actually, to plug our Human Bio seminar on Friday, 2 students that participated in summer research experiences this past summer are going to be speaking at the Human Bio seminar that is on Friday at 3 p.m. in MAC 107. So you should have received a flyer about that from Human Bio. So I'd recommend checking that out to hear more information about that research. We also offer teaching assistants. So if you have a class that you did really well in, you connected with that professor, they teach courses that need undergraduate TAs, that could be an opportunity where you could gain leadership experience and mentoring in that area. We have the cadaver dissection, the human bioanatomy lab. So that involves working with a couple faculty and a couple students each semester. And so interest in that usually involves reaching out to Dr. Nelson if you want to be involved in that course. And then finally, we do have travel courses, and there is one going to Thailand this January. So keeping your eye out for those in the future. Having that international travel, and they have a partnership with a medical college in Thailand where they're going to be seeing what medicine looks like in those other countries. So taking advantage of those opportunities as well to both travel, see the world, and gain experience and see what medicine is like other places. So that's kind of the things that you can spend your time doing. But other aspects of your application that you're going to need is you're going to need people to speak on your behalf, of what kind of person you are and the potential that you have for being successful in medical school. And so these will be the letters of recommendation. Typically, you're going to want at least one clinician. And so maybe you work as a CNA and you interact with a doctor all the time. And so they know you well, they know how capable you are, they know your potential, or someone that you shadowed and you made a really good connection with. That could be someone that you would ask as a clinician. You want to make a good impression on them. So showing up on time, being engaged while you're there, not just kind of passively being there, but showing that you are interested in what they are doing and you want to know more. Also science faculty. So professors that have taught you in upper level courses, ones that you've made a good impression on those professors. You've had interactions with them. You've shown up to their office hours and gotten to know them, and they have gotten to know you. Those would be the best ideal people that would write letters of recommendation for you. Other people that could would be someone, if you are a volunteer and they are your coordinator or your supervisor or boss. If you do undergraduate research, your mentor, the principal investigator of the lab, would be other opportunities, but your ideal people would be the clinician, definitely at least one clinician, and then some science faculty. Do you have any other recommendations for people to write you letters? So when you're going to write for a letter, we will, you should either meet them in person or write them an email and give them a reason why. So, hey, I've had you in class, or hey, I know you through the shadowing opportunity. Give them some reminders of some interactions that you had possibly, and then ask, is it all right if you would be willing to write a strong letter of recommendation for you? So ideally, you don't want these people to write just simple letters because they don't know you well. You want them to be writing these strong letters. What they will typically ask you is they will ask for your personal statement. That is a big one that I always ask for because I want to see what you're telling the schools that you're applying to, your resume, and then instructions for how to submit. You might also be asked for your transcript or additional information. But importantly, they're going to want to know your timeline of when you plan to submit, and you'll want to ask early. Don't give them a week notice. You're going to want to give them at least a month of time for them to craft that letter for you. Dr. Hanke, do you have any other additional insights?
I think you've really covered it. Remember to think about again as you think about your clinical rotations, and you're going to need somebody who can speak to your experiences a little bit in that clinical environment. That's also one of those times where you really are looking to try and establish a relationship and get to know them a little bit as you work with them in whatever capacity you're doing. And then again, they're super busy people. Advance notice and you doing as much of the work as you can on your side will really help with getting one of those recommendations ready.
So I like to write letters that really give an idea of who this student is. And what makes a person is not just they got an A in my class and they did above average on all of the exams. And so if that's the only thing I can write about you, I would probably say that is not a strong letter of recommendation. And so other things that I will be thinking about as I'm writing a letter is how committed are you to learning? So did you come to class? Did you look engaged when you were in class? Do you have interpersonal skills, right? We complain about whether a doctor has good bedside manner or not. And so us being able to speak to how can you interact with people positively, so that people feel safe with you and feel that they can trust you with their care. How are your communication skills? Can you write a email that is polite and you clear and concise? Can you speak? Do you take advantage of opportunities to present your work or talk about things in front of other people? That is a skill. It doesn't come naturally to many people, myself included, being able to just stand up in a room and talk to people. And so that would be something that we would want to be observing. And if you were really skilled at that, that would be something I would want to say, I would want to mention. So if those are things that you need to work on, take opportunities, every opportunity you can to have those events where you are practicing them, because it does take practice. Do you receive feedback well? Do you get defensive when you see something you don't like about a grade or about a question? Are you going to come and be combative? Or do you take the feedback for what it is and use it to become a better student? Being self-aware, managing all of the things that are on your plate. I know you are all very busy. So making sure that you are managing your time well, is another thing that we can speak to if it's something that I have observed and I can comment on. So again, it's highlighting that we need to get to know you if you want it to be a strong and personalized letter. Okay, so another aspect of applying is taking the MCAT. And so the MCAT has 4 parts to it, and then your score gets added up. You're going to get a score between 472 and 528. The average score is going to be a 500. What's going to make you the most competitive for applying to medical schools is having a score between 414 and 500, or 514 and 528. That is in the top 10% of people taking the exam. A competitive applicant will be between 508 and 513. That's the top 25. Much less than that, you're going to have a harder time getting an interview to those programs. And I have some stats of some accepted students a little later in this slide deck that will highlight what kind of scores you want to keep in mind. I know, Craig, you guys have kind of standards that when I hear you talk to students about, that you give them an aim for.
Yeah, I think your numbers look good. I would try to target above 508. If you didn't hit that number, I don't think it means you shouldn't apply. I think you can still send your application in. But it does decrease your overall chance of success a little bit. And I guess the other thing I would say about this is I'd take this back to that previous slide where we were talking about the coursework that you should take, the physics and biochemistry and human physiology and genetics and some of those. And my advice would be use your exams in those courses as kind of a testing ground for how well's your exam preparation going. Are you developing study skills that help you to be prepared for the exam? Those are going to carry through onto the MCAT. And the higher you can score in each of those courses, the more you've mastered that material, and likely the easier it will be for you to get ready for the specific way the MCAT tests you. And we can talk about MCAT preparatory resources as well, but
Yeah.
overall your performance in your undergraduate is a really good indicator of how well you're getting ready for this MCAT exam.
Yeah, definitely. So while you're taking these courses, you want to not just cram for the exam and forget it. The more time you put in, then the better it will help you on the MCAT. One of the things that I'm hearing possibly are challenging for students are the CARS test questions. Do you want to speak to those at all?
Yeah, they're notorious with our students as the test you can't really prepare for, right? Because what it is really trying to do is to test your social and interpersonal skills, to some extent, some of your ethics, in an unfamiliar environment where they just kind of give you a little bit of an off-the-wall question, and then it goes through a kind of a psychometric analysis to try and assess how well does this student deal with the unknown, and what kinds of things does it tell us about their personality. It is not, as I said, it's not really a test you can study for, although you can find a few resources out there on the internet that would help you to get an idea of what kind of questions might you expect to see in CARS.
All right, so we have a student that was really detailed in what he did as he prepared for the MCAT. He is now a DO, so he went to a DO school rather than med school, but same, there's still a physician at the end. So these are some of the things that he did as he was preparing. Is there's some MCAT prep out there. Craig, I think you recommend the Princeton review books.
Yeah, I think Princeton's good. I mean, I think I would guess that there's probably going to be some variation. Students might respond differently to various different resources. But I think what's most important is to find one, do a little bit of screening, go to the bookstore or wherever else you can find these and screen them a little bit and find something that you can really kind of sink your teeth into, because you're going to want to kind of work through this methodically, checking off pages and topics as you work your way through. It's important enough that an organized study approach is really going to pay off in this thing.
Yeah, I've also heard taking practice exams is a really good tool of where am I at. So taking one pretty early and then taking them throughout and really going through each individual question and knowing why you got it wrong or what the reasoning is behind. So you are just more experienced with what the questions are going to be like. It's also just a really long exam. So sitting down and practicing being that focused for that long would be a good kind of preparation for just physically taking that exam. So you will get the slides after, so I will let you read those another time rather than going through what he did and that worked for him. So what works for one person may not work for others, but in general, I say recommend testing yourself frequently to see what your understanding is and just being exposed to questions. Okay, so for in terms of submitting, where you would apply would be this online application called AMCAS. It opens in May where you can start populating your application, but then you can submit, I believe it's at the beginning of June or even the late May, for when you are applying for not starting in the fall of 26, but you would be applying in June of 26 to start in the fall of 27. So you apply a year before you actually enter medical school. My recommendation is don't wait, even though the window ends in like October, submit it as soon as possible. So if it opens in June, you should be planning to submit in June. That is going to give you the best shot at being seen by schools. So they have admissions, they start admitting people while other people are still submitting their applications. And so spots will get taken up the later and later that you are applying. So you'll submit your primary application to the schools that you are deciding, and then you will get notified if they want to see additional application material. So that would be your secondary application, and that would be unique to each of the medical schools that you would apply to. There's probably going to be additional essays that you would write for those secondary applications. So again, the more moments that you can draw from your experiences, the easier it will be to write those essays. So can't recommend keeping a journal now because I can't remember necessarily what I did last month. But if I had written it down, it will help me jog my memory. Okay. So then in addition to the MCAT, they will likely ask for you to take the Casper test, which would be the situational, how do you respond in certain situations? So here's our timeline for all of the parts that you will be submitting for your application. When you're asking for letters of recommendation, that's what I mean by LORs. You're going to want to be asking no later than April for the people that are going to write those letters for you if you want to submit in June. If you're asking them in June, they probably will not have them ready for you when you want them. So ask for those early. You're going to want to take the MCAT somewhere between January to May, although you can take it later, but it will take 4 to 6 weeks to get your score back. You'll want to have your personal statement finished in May. Start working on it now, or at least in January, and have many people read it, have feedback, let them rip it to shreds so that you can build it up into something better. So get at least the first draft down soon, so then you can wordsmith it, you can work on it and make it a personal what is going to make you a good physician and why physician. Make sure you have your clinical hours, at least 300 combined. Make sure you have patient contact hours. Submit at least by June 1st, I believe, or is that different this year? My apologies.
Yeah, this is always kind of confusing. They opened they opened the portal late in May, and you can start putting things in. But when they will actually start to pull things off the AMCAS portal, for MCW anyway, is going to be right around July 1st. So you want to have all of your stuff in place, and it's going to take you a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks to get your whole application uploaded and get everything nice and clean and proofread. And then they'll take a look at that application starting really on July 1st. I'm actually looking at the website because I would never remember this, Georgette. July 1st, they'll start looking at your applications. That's an important date because that means they're going to start filling slots. They've got 220 in Milwaukee and 25 on each of the regional campuses. Once those slots are filled, you don't have anything. So don't get distracted by what they call rolling admission and think, oh, I can just submit in September, October, I'll be fine. They're going to keep looking. It's really not the way it works. The later you submit, the fewer spots are still open and the lower your percentage chance of getting an interview. So July 1st, very important date. Have everything uploaded to AMCAS, ready to go on that date for all schools. Then for MCW, they'll send out a request for a secondary, and then they're going to ask for that on August 15th. Those are the essays that you're going to be writing. Now they want to see the next stage from you. And August 15th, mid-August, at least it was last year, was the target date. And again, you want to have everything ready so that as soon as they are ready to start screening them, you're in the queue for them to see your applications.
Okay. Thank you. So maybe we'll update this slide before we send it out to students so that they know those particular dates.
Yeah, it's, I
That's
don't
kind
know
of,
what
but
that
yeah, it
is. It's
changes
so
every year.
confusing, and it's just
Yeah.
hard to understand what they're actually saying. But really, it's make sure you got your applications ready by July 1st and make sure you got your secondary applications ready by August 15th. The time in between is the time when you're putting everything online and getting it ready.
Thank you. So this isn't necessarily something we recommend, but they do have early decision programs where you apply to one school, and that is you're putting all of your eggs in one basket. And I think it's a personal choice, but maybe not necessarily for everyone. So do you want to
Right.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, if I could quickly comment. Here's
Yeah.
here's what it looks like from the school side. Early decision applicants will be the top 1 or 2% of anything that they see, which means they're going to try and take you off the market and see if they can offer you a position, get you to commit to them immediately as soon as you do that. The problem you have is if you're not in that top 1 or 2%, it kind of disrupts your ability to apply to the rest of the program because now you're late to get your application in. So if you do not have a 524 MCAT score and 1,000 hours of clinical and maybe a PhD, and now you're going back for an MD, you're probably better off not applying early decision. Go in with the rest of the students, have your applications considered as soon as things kind of work their way through their normal application process, and don't miss your window when they may not be looking at those students. So early decision, and this was coming from one of the former MCW admissions directors to say, really, we don't encourage very many students to apply early decision.
Thank you. Yeah. So even though it's available, it's not right for everybody.
Right.
Okay. So then October, November is when it closes. They will already be doing interviews. You have to make a final decision if they offer you a spot in April for starting that next fall. So in Wisconsin, we have 2 medical schools. We have the Medical College of Wisconsin, so that Dr. Hanke is a member of. They have 3 campuses. They offer MD, MD PhD, and MD Masters of Public Health as well as part of their programs. So they would have information on their website about all of those. And then in Madison, they have a number of medical programs as well, including their rural MD. So that is a targeted towards people that want to stay in Wisconsin and do rural medicine, which I was surprised when I first found this out, is that everywhere except Milwaukee and Madison is rural medicine in Wisconsin. So Green Bay is considered rural. And so they have designed these medical programs targeting their patients, which would be people in Wisconsin, and serving our population. So some admission requirements for the Medical College of Wisconsin. They don't actually prefer any major over another. Again, if that people who are art majors can take the prerequisites and apply to medical school. So that isn't something that you have to be a human bio major to do, although we have designed our curriculum to help support you in that way. We've been very intentional in our program. They want to see you high achieving. You have to have taken those prerequisite courses that would be required on each school's individual website that they outline. You have to have taken your MCAT within 3 years of when you would matriculate. So if you're going to start in the fall of 26, you would have had to take your MCAT in 2023. You would take a Casper test, have a personal statement, your letters of recommendation, describing your experiences, how you spend your time outside of the classroom, and then there would be an interview involved. And so the Career Center actually offers some practice interviewing, mock interviews, because when you first walk in and you've never practiced before, it can be quite intimidating. And if you had seen something like it before, it can help you do a better job and know what to expect. So that's something that we offer through the career services. So nationwide, again, there's variation in this. Do you have to have these perfect scores? Absolutely not. However, what an average GPA for someone that is going to enter medical school, this is from 23 to 24 nationally, is a 3.77 GPA. Science, it's still a 3.71. And then the average MCAT score would be a 511. In Madison for 2025, they had 7,744 applicants applying to Madison. They took 588 interviews and they accepted 171 people. They do have residency bias, so they accepted 132 Wisconsin residents. And so when you're looking for schools you want to apply to, you need to see if their schools select for people within their state more so than people out of state. And so Madison would be an example of that. So for Madison, they have a 3.78 GPA, 3.7 for science. Their MCAT score was a 511 average. And they take people as young as their admitted students were as young as 21, as old as 40. And so that highlights that you don't have to go to medical school right outside of undergrad. You can take gap years. So the information I have for MCW is that they admitted 252 people. Their average GPA was a 3.7, science was a 3.6, and their average MCAT was a 5.10. I know we were talking about this before, Dr. Hanke. Do you have any additional insights for the profile of a student?
I think between Milwaukee and Madison, they're going to be pretty similar. The thing I'd probably highlight would be the 2 regional campuses for MCW have a specific mission, which is we exist because we're trying to recruit local talent, and then we know that those students are likely to come back and resettle in Wisconsin once they're done with residency. And we're trying to kind of repopulate the number of physicians we're going to need in the northern half of the state of Wisconsin, from Fox Valley on up to Lake Superior. So I think that's really important for the UWGB students because it means we're quite honestly looking specifically for people like you who are interested in medicine. So just keep it in mind. I will not talk down Madison. I think they do a great job. I think it's a great school. So is the Milwaukee campus. But if you're thinking, I think I'd like to come back and settle in Green Bay and be a physician, that's why the Green Bay and Central Wisconsin campuses exist.
And we have so many students now after I've been here 10 years that I can remember being students in my class that now have gone through MCW Green Bay and Central Wisconsin that are now practicing or at least in residency. So
And
it's
they're
been
starting to
fun.
come back, and yeah, so it's fun to
Yeah.
see the loop close, and now those
Hmm.
students have taken full-time positions and will be settled in Green Bay. So
Yeah.
it's
So
work.
we definitely have seen success from our students going to those programs. And so some other qualities you want to think about. Do you understand what it means to be a physician? What is your motivation for wanting to be it? It goes beyond just wanting to help people. There are many positions in healthcare where you help people, or you want to make people better. So what is it specifically about you being a physician that is driving you to want to be in medicine? Being demonstrating your experience working with a diverse population of individuals, not just in one area, being well-rounded. Having interview skills is, again, important. So practicing questions, going through that process of feeling those nerves is important to see before you step into that interview. And then being committed to being more a member of your community and not just only thinking about books. Any other things that you guys particularly like to see?
Not really. I think there's a great list.
Okay.
The one thing that I think sometimes might be worth mentioning for the UWGB student audience is sometimes ambition can get a bit of a bad rap. And saying that you would like to be the physician because you feel you can provide the leadership to help a team and to have that team um, take on the role of a critical patient and really operate effectively together. You shouldn't step back from that. I think that's exactly the type of reason that people can at times talk about why they would prefer to be the MD rather than the pathology lab technologist who's got a critical role but maybe doesn't want that level of responsibility. So, and sometimes I think students feel like that is being a little less humble than maybe they should be. That's a fine line to walk, but I think those are the kinds of things that be true to who you are and try to carefully describe who you are in those letters in your personal statement, and really talk about what is it that motivates you to move into the MD role, and why is that the one that is best fit to who you're going to be as a professional.
Definitely. I mean, even thinking about what makes a good leader and then developing those skills. Is it
Yes.
just barking orders at someone, or is there more to it than that? And so really kind of developing your leadership style. I think that will also help you with that reflection of being able to describe your leadership and how you will be make a great physician.
And life experiences here can really be important and powerful. Sharing how someone else really impacted your own life because of that role, and how you saw the role of the MD in that environment. And that has always been motivational for you. I think that's a great way to kind of describe why the physician job.
Um, so sometimes we're in the middle of the semester. I know that everything else gets bogged down, and sometimes that takes on more than just the typical things. And so it's okay to say not right now. It's also okay to have plan B, C, D, and E of what else am I going to do, even though I thought this was my path. Is there somewhere else I could push my skills and be successful? And so I want to encourage everyone that is okay to take a gap year. It's okay to graduate from UW Green Bay and think I'm not ready yet, or there's other things I want to do before I spend my life, all of my time here. So taking a gap year, gaining more clinical experience, um, doing research, going and working in an academic lab or a biotech company to gain more critical thinking skills in the research lab, take additional classes, do a post-bac. They have a master's in medical physiology at MCW that would be additional classes in a program that you would take that would be more specialized courses and showing that you're successful in those classes. So maybe your GPA was not quite where it would be to be the most competitive. And so getting a post-bac through this medical master's program could show that you are excelling in these classes. Do you want to talk more about that program as well?
Sure. So the Master's in Medical Physiology, in some sense, does two things for you. One, it gives you a chance to show that you're able to handle the pace of medical school because you'll take medical school courses right along with the medical students. You'll be doing those courses. Two, if you think about that, if you then come back and go to medical school, it means you've had an initial run through some of those courses, which takes a little bit of the load off of the first year because you've seen some of that material, you've already studied it once. There'll still be a few more things to learn as you go back and take those courses again, but it can make it a little bit easier in transition into that first year.
Yeah, so a gap year is not a waste of your time. A gap year is working on making your application better. So that's how I would approach those, and it's a time to grow. I don't know if I was quite ready to start my PhD as a 22-year-old. So looking back, maybe I should have worked a little bit. I mean, it's different for everybody, but there's
Yeah,
certainly value.
and I know definitely I wasn't. So I took three
Yeah,
years off before going back to graduate school. It was a good
yeah,
choice for me. I didn't know at the time that grad school was in my plans, but a
yeah.
little bit of time to kind of figure out where you're headed is just fine.
I agree. So there's certainly a plenty of things you can do to help make your application better while you're in those gap years. Otherwise, there's also DO programs that you can apply to, and the training is different than MD. However, you still take same exam to become a practicing physician. The philosophy is different between those two programs. Alternatively, physician assistant or nurse practitioner. There are also additional specialized programs like anesthesia assistant or a perfusion program. They have where you are in the room watching bypass, like so you're managing the bypass while that's happening for patients. So I didn't know about that one until a few years ago as well as so you're still in healthcare, you're still in the room doing these things, even if you aren't the physician in the room. So those might be appropriate for people if it's not you go and you shadow and you realize, well, this is maybe not what is right for me, but I still want to be in healthcare. So exploring those alternative options. Okay, so that is the last slide that I have. I do want to thank Dr. Hanke for coming. If we have time and you're willing, I'd love to hear some more about MCW because I think that is a great program and we've been really fortunate to have our relationships that we have with you.
Sure. I'm happy to do it, and I will try and do it quickly because I know everybody else has things they want to do. So if I'll just share my screen for a second here. Give me 1 minute. All right.
Some questions coming in.
Is the slide coming up?
I haven't seen it yet. I don't see it yet.
It just shows you've started screen sharing. Tell you what, we'll go ahead and can you see the questions, Dr. Heyrman?
Yeah, so I see
Okay,
the
okay.
first question for shadowing physicians, can we shadow our own doctors? So I think, yeah, if you have to set that up with your doctor. I don't think your like appointment would count, but if you can having those personal connections get you an in, I think is a great idea. We have our next question. How should we keep track of our volunteer work, hours of clinical experience? Do you have a good system for that?
I like your system of a diary. I would honestly just keep a little notebook and, write down the day that you were there and maybe just a note about what you saw. And then when you have a particularly meaningful day, I'd take a little more detailed note because that will become gold mine for writing your essays as those come back around in your secondary applications.
I think it's kind of like a resume, is that you document what you've done
Mhm.
and they can be verified in certain ways, like going and talking to supervisors and stuff. How early do you recommend we start studying for the MCAT? Everybody is different, is my recommendation. Some people I've heard have taken a month and that's all they do is just study and then they take it. Other people I think have taken a year. So I think you need to know yourself. I will give the amount of time allotted to me. And so that is what works for me.
And I think it depends on how well did you do in physics. If physics was a relatively straightforward class and you felt like you really had it, then maybe all you need is a week to review your physics before your MCAT ready. On the other hand, if there were some things in there that were a little bit tougher, maybe you want a bit more time so that you can go back and find some other resources to really help you master that content.
So they have CUEGB and has volunteer experience and tracks the volunteer hours. So I'm not familiar with that. Is that a website?
And Georgette, you're breaking up a little bit. I can't tell if it's on my side or if it's on yours.
Oh,
But I
sorry.
did get a message from Zoom suggesting my computer was having some trouble, so it's probably me.
Okay.
I just popped
Oh,
the link for QGB
excellent.
into the chat. So for students who
Excellent.
aren't familiar with it, that's student engagement, the Office of Student Engagement at UW Green Bay. So you can find all types of different organizations based on interest areas. And it's things from short term, like a 1 day break leaves, to ongoing, more ongoing sustained volunteer work.
Excellent. And then what made the best personal statements that you've read stand out from others?
I think it's an opportunity to show kind of an extension of some of the things you experience clinically. To be able to take, for example, a patient who maybe doesn't speak English quite that well, and for you to be able to work closely with that patient, help them to navigate the complexity of the healthcare system. You can start to show a little bit about your empathy for the patient. You can show a little bit about your understanding of how the healthcare system operates and how you might be able to facilitate that. And you could show a little bit about your willingness to serve and to go the extra mile to make sure that that patient has a good experience and that their health care issues get resolved. So looking for ways to be able to use those experiences to kind of highlight multiple different aspects of who you might be as a physician moving forward would be the way I think about it.
Do we suggest calc-based physics or is non-calc okay? Non-calc is okay, I believe, is just fine.
As far as I know, us anyway.
Will MCW accept AP Bio and Chem, or do you want students to repeat the courses in college?
That's a great question. I would think about it in terms of what MCW really wants, and this goes higher than me, is for you to come in with your chemistry quite solid so that because they won't repeat it, right? They're going to jump right into biochemistry and they're going to fly. So my advice to you would be, make sure that you've got the background that you need. If you did a good job and you've got the AP Bio and Chem and it's pretty solid in there, then maybe you want to jump in and start taking the higher level UWGB courses. But if it's really you're just kind of skipping a step and it might come back to bite you a little bit later on, then I would try to fill in those gaps. It's mostly about continuing to climb that ladder of I've got my foundational materials, all of my coursework starting to feel pretty good.
Is it okay to retake classes? Will medical school look at retaking as a no to accepting you for an interview?
I think it's fine to retake a class. If you didn't do well and you can go back and show them what you're really capable of, I think that works out fine.
I think being able to speak to it too, like what did you change? Or, I had a situation, and then I recognized I needed to learn this material in a better situation. So that's what I did.
Agree.
Showing growth, I think, is important. What is the lowest GPA you have seen accepted to MCW?
So I don't sit on the admissions committee for intentionally for their purposes. They want me to be here when students get here and to help everybody that walks in the door. I have heard that there have been students with sub 3, less than 3.0 GPAs that have still been accepted. I would imagine those students have a few other things, for example, a particularly noteworthy MCAT score, or other things that show up on their application that make them very strong candidates for other reasons.
Do you feel it's harder to build meaningful experiences with an EMT job rather than being a CNA since you are with a patient for a shorter amount of time?
That's a great question. I think the real answer is no. Excuse me. I think what's most important is for you guys to get some experience in healthcare in general. The EMT's job is different than the CNA's, but it also creates some experiences that a CNA can't duplicate, right? The response under pressure, the need to be able to adapt to a situation that they didn't expect. I think those are all going to come into play as you go through. So I wouldn't worry about that. It's a great question, but I think you can be very successful with either of those.
Those are all the questions that I have on the chat. Oh, we got another. For the CNA programs, do most people take the courses in summer or winter of freshman year? I think people take them whenever fits into their schedules. I think the earlier you can take it, the better. I know some high schoolers that became CNAs and worked their last year of high school. So I think whenever you can find the time to do it, I would do it as soon as possible, just so that you have that ability to get a CNA position and start working and gaining those hours. Okay.
Excellent. I will stop the recording at this point, and yeah, we'll upload. Like I said, once they're uploaded, I'll email the link to the resource. It'll be in Handshake, and so everyone can access that. So you'll have access to that. Probably I'll say by the end of the week. That way it gives us a chance to update the PowerPoint as well as any of the handouts.
Thank you. All right. Thank you everyone for coming.